We want to start adding interactivity to our game. And whenever we're adding interactivity inside Unity, most of the magic is going to happen through scripting, or in our case, we're going to use Playmaker to develop these scripts. Now, before we jump into Playmaker, I do want to demonstrate the difference between a traditional script, a JavaScript or a C# script, and compare that to what we're going to be doing inside Playmaker. So for this demonstration, you're going to need the rotate.javascript, the rotate.js script, which I've provided inside the lesson folder. So you can see here that there's an item called rotate script, and I'm just going to click on that script to download it. I'm going to open it up from my downloads folder, and I'm going to unzip it if I need to, and I'll just drag it right to the desktop. So I already have a copy on my desktop, this rotate.js script, and the .js just refers to it's a JavaScript file extension. I'm going to jump back into Unity, and from Unity, I'm going to go into my Assets folder, and from my Assets folder, I'm going to right-click inside the root of the Assets folder, and I'm going to create a new folder. And this is going to be the Scripts folder. Okay, and this is the place where I'm going to drag and drop any scripts that I find on the web that I want to implement, or if I want to create scripts directly in Unity, I'll just go in the Scripts folder, I'll right-click, and choose to create a specific kind of script. Now, at this point, we're not going to build a script from the ground up. We're just going to use this rotate.js script. I'm not going to double-click on the script. I'm simply going to drag and drop the script into the Unity interface here, and that'll make it available. So you'll notice that once we have a script inside Unity, I'll just go back to my scripts folder. If I left-click, single-click on the rotate script, inside the inspector, it'll show me the contents of this script. Once I'm inside Unity, if I double-click on this script, it'll open up with MonoDevelop. MonoDevelop is a script editor, a programming environment that shipped with Unity. When you downloaded and installed Unity, it should have come with MonoDevelop. And you'll see that this script opened up. Now, the contents of this script says function update, and then there's a transform.rotate command. Now, let's take a real quick look at what this script is doing. The function update command, what that is referring to is that every time the screen updates in our game view, it runs whatever function is included in the update script. Okay, and by update, we simply mean when I hit the play button, my game is redrawing, it's refreshing the screen at a frame rate. And I have this little statistics button turned on, so if I'm in my game view and I'm playing my game and I'm running around inside my environment and I want to see how efficient this game is acting, if I go up here in the top right hand corner in the game tab while the game is running, you can see there's a little stats button. If I hit the stats button, this will give me immediate feedback about the performance of my game. And if I look in here, somewhere in the graphics, there it is, it says I'm running somewhere about 120 plus frames per second. So that means that for every 1 second of time spent, my screen is redrawing 120 times, 90 times. That's my frame rate. The frame rate is directly influenced, or the update function, I should say, is directly influenced by the screen rate, or the refresh rate, or the redraw rate of this. So every time the screen redraws and updates, it'll run this bit of code. The transform.rotate, what the transform.rotate is referring to, is the transform component of the object that's inside the scene. Now, in order to demonstrate this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a game object. I'm going to create a 3D game object, and I'm going to introduce a cube into my environment. I'm going to place this near my first-person controller so that when I hit the play button, I can see the cube floating in space. I'm going to take this rotate.js script and simply drag and drop it onto my cube. And I can do this through the hierarchy, or I can, with the cube selected, I can drag this over to the inspector. And when I release that, you can see that there's a rotate script that's been attached, and it created a new script component for this cube. So now when I hit the play button, I should get the result of a rotating cube. So let's take a closer look at this script. I'm just going to select the rotate script. I don't need to double click on it because I can read what this value is directly in the inspector, but in the event that I want to modify this value, I'll need to open it in some kind of script editor. So we have function update, we have transform.rotate. So we're talking to the transform component of an object, the object with which we have this script attached. We're looking at the rotate component of the transform. So if we go back into Unity here and take a look, if I select my cube, we're talking to the transform component, specifically the rotate, and the rotation values have an x, y, z, or a vector 3 component. Okay, so if I go back into this script, I see that I have one number separated by another number, separated by a comma, followed by another number. Now I do have a little bit of a little extra code in here. It says times time dot delta time, and I'm just going to cut that from the equation just for a second so we can see this a little bit more clearly. We have a transform.rotate command, and we're rotating along this vector 3 coordinate system. Whenever we see three numbers in a row separated by a comma, chances are we're talking about x, y, and z. We're talking about a vector 3. And if I jump back into Unity, the rotation component has an x, y, and z, specifically in that order. So in my script, it says rotate according to the x along at a rate of 0, the y is a rate of 100, and the z is a rate of 0. Okay, so I have x, y, and z. So we're rotating at a rate of 100 degrees. Let me just jump back into Unity here. There we go. Along the y-axis. Okay, so the up axis is the axis which is rotating around. That's why the cube is spinning using the y-axis. So if I hit the play button, we'll see that rotating. Now, if I go back into, let's say, MonoDevelop, and I paste the bit of code that was there before, what this is saying is we're taking a rate of rotation and multiplying it against time.delta time. Whenever we talk about delta time, we're talking about real time. And so this is just saying, rather than using the screen refresh rate of your computer, let's measure this against real time, or the internal clock of the computer. So we're talking about 1 second of time rotating 100 degrees against 1 second of time, and this is just a way to kind of unify the measurement of time so that if you're running on a really fast computer or running on a really slow computer, it tries to emulate the same rotation speed. Okay? Now don't turn off your computer and run away from this presentation video afraid, because we're not going to spend a tremendous amount of time looking at scripts and dissecting them. I wanted to show you the basic concept of a simple script and how to implement that script inside Unity before we start to look at Playmaker. So again, I'll hit the play button. I see my cube rotating, and I have a pretty clear sense of what that script is doing. Now, if I want to modify this, I can go back and I can change one of these values. I'll change that first value, let's say to 90. I'll zero out the second value. So I'm rotating along X at this point, and I'll just save my script. Because I've saved it, I can go back into Unity and hit the play button, and I should see this cube rotating in a different direction. And it looks like it's rotating. Something's going on. I see some values changing up here. I'll have to jump back in here, and I think I broke something when I told that value to zero out. So I'm just going to, let's see here. Let me just zero this whole thing out. I'll save it. I'll go back into Unity. I think leaving that delta time equation in there at 0 was kind of goofing things up. Looks like I broke something. No problem. We're not going to troubleshoot this script too much longer. But the idea is that I wanted to get a sense of what's going on with this script. Just paste this delta time back in there. Get this thing ironed out. Hit the save button. And try that one more time. There we go. So we're back to rotating. If I want to get rid of this script, if I want to remove it from the cube, if I delete the cube, everything attached to it is going to go away. But in the event that I want to just select the cube and get rid of this script component, I simply need to find the script component that I want to remove and click on this little cog over here and say remove component. Once I do that, that script has been removed and it's no longer talking to the cube. If I want to reattach it, I'll just simply drag and drop onto the inspector. Okay, so now I want to compare that with creating a script and attaching it to a game object versus trying to do something very similar in Playmaker. But we'll do that in the next presentation. So take a moment, download this rotate script, incorporate it into your project folder, and attach it to a cube. Make sure that you get that object to rotate according to the script. And we'll catch up in the next presentation and do the same thing, but we'll do it in Playmaker.